Hey everyone, welcome back to another recap podcast from SNXweave, where we give quick weekly recaps of news and important updates from the previous week from the Spartan Council and core contributors, as well as discuss what the Grants Council and ambassadors are up to, so let's get started. The Spartan Council and core contributors started off their meeting last week by discussing fee share. Bert came back with some numbers. At a 20% liquid fee share, integrators would need to drive volume 33% higher to be profitable. In response to anybody who argued that 20% would detract from staking rewards, he emphasized that this increased volume would generate 300% more in additional fees for stakers. He highlighted again that there would be no volume without front ends, and there is a pretty clear number where building a front end is not economically viable. That number is less clear for LPs. In other words, at what level of staking rewards does the protocol begin to lose stakers because they are no longer being adequately compensated for the risk they're taking? Millie responded by saying there should be some expectation of upfront risk when building out any product, but he thinks a 33% volume increase is possible just via the base deployment. ML Pseudo stressed that this number shouldn't be set in stone right away and that there should be the possibility to reassess based on new data in the future. Bert again brought up that the cost to run front ends comes in at around $200,000 a month, and Polynomial said they were close to $250,000. And this is just the operating costs. Quenta has funded some referral programs using the Quenta token. Polynomial has held off on launching similar programs because they don't have a way to fund them. Bert also expressed interest in launching a more traditional advertising campaign. Jackson brought up the fact that DYDX generates about $1 billion in daily volume, and split across 3 integrators, this would generate enough fees at a 10% fee share to meet the operating budgets and more. Millie thinks one of their big advantages is that they offer USDC pairs and are not constrained by SUSD liquidity. This is a huge potential bottleneck for a successful base deployment, and Cav will be taking this back to the Treasury Council for further discussion. Duck also mentioned that he recently heard a podcast from DYDX where they were talking about building their own app chain and developing their own liquidity layer on that chain. They also discussed permissionless derivatives and ways they could learn from what Synthetics was planning, so he wanted to discuss the progress Synthetics has made on this front. Caleb said one of the biggest concerns is how to allow permissionless markets without under-collateralizing SUSD, which is being worked on. But the main focus of the CCs right now is the deployment of V3. Cav added that there have been some draft governance proposals for the new V3 markets, and they have helped to demonstrate what third parties need to understand in order to make those markets happen. And the V3 docs are being improved and updated to reflect that. The other component is the redesign of the staking interface to support multiple pools and markets. The release and monitoring of Perps V3 should also provide valuable feedback on how the system functions, which would then be relayed to any project that would like to deploy a pool or market of their own. Everything basically boils down to having a good risk understanding of how those markets would impact SUSD. Lastly, the Spartan Council and CCs discussed tokenomics proposals, as ML Pseudo has been working on a document to assess all of the current proposals side by side. There are currently 3 proposals, and the Council would like to come to a consensus on one before it's presented to the community. After getting community input, it should be more clear what priorities need to be met by a specific deadline. Millie stressed that there may not be just one way to approach the tokenomics discussion, specifically highlighting that it's not totally clear how V3 will perform across multiple deployments. ML countered this by saying it's important to continue moving the conversation forward, and there can still be discussion on the key principles that the Spartan Council should be considering when making these decisions. Bert suggested starting with the lowest hanging fruit that could be separated out of this larger discussion. For instance, there is consensus that cross-chain fee share should be implemented using cross-chain messaging solutions. So work on this can begin as soon as that solution is fully implemented, and a manual process could be used in the meantime to distribute the fees across chains. And that's it for today's updates. Be sure to check out our weekly recap blog post, share this podcast link, and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear more about from SNXweave. Thanks for listening.